This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.
Well, welcome back to another episode of the podcast. Thank you for joining us today. I'm really excited to have you on the airwaves with us on the podcast, and I have a guest with us again for today. We've got Justin Smith with us. Justin, how are you, mate?
Hi, Jack. I'm great, mate. How are you?
And I'm doing really well. For those who are unaware, Justin is a podiatrist, part of our Clinic Mastery community. Justin's one of the team at Hunter Podiatry Services. He's a podiatrist, moonlights as all sorts of things, from a CrossFit coach, strength and conditioning, movement coach, all sorts of things. And as well as that, is an esteemed teacher at the University of Newcastle for the podiatry course. So, Justin, first of all, what have you been up to this morning? Any interesting cases, learnings? What have you been up to today?
Wow, an introduction. Mate, had a good morning. So I'm in the clinic this morning. We've had a strategy meeting as well as seen a couple of patients. I was lucky enough to train with a good friend this morning as well and lift some weights and do some stuff like that. So good start to the morning.
Nice. I'm really inspired by Justin, and listeners, you're going to be challenged with a few different thoughts and hopefully a couple of pearls to walk away, especially when it comes to mindset and philosophy and those sorts of things. But Justin, you're pretty religious about the exercise routines. What time does exercise kick off for you, mate?
I am, mate. It's usually pretty early, so I try to get up between 5 and 5:30, sometimes before that, depending if I'm coaching after work or training after work. But setting that time early in the morning to do some sort of movement practice is quite important, I find, and gives me a bit of flow for the rest of the day, mate.
I love it. So if you're looking for any Instagram inspiration, listeners, check out Justin's Instagram for some crazy lift selfies every morning in the elevator. Where should we find you on Instagram, Justin? Where should we find you?
Mate, yeah, just Justin Smith on Instagram and Facebook. Love people reaching out and chatting all the time. It's it's a part of us all going and connecting.
That's it. We'll link that up in the show notes, listeners. I think Justin's got a bit of a strange spelling in your Instagram handle. So let's dive into today's chat. You, as a clinician, and for those listening, if you're a practitioner, you know what it's like to have one of those chaotic days. You've got patients with all sorts of conditions and the emotional ups and downs that we go on as healthcare practitioners. And I'm aware that a lot of us struggle with how to reconcile that internally. And Justin, you're such a reflective thinker. I love the way you think. Can you tell us about your story and why you started delving into some of these principles?
Yeah, great. As you touched on, Jack, I think as clinicians and anyone in health, there's such emotional labor that goes with that. And we can't help but be sometimes reactive. And I can certainly attest, when I first graduated and started seeing patients jumping straight into the full-time load, taking on more and more and more. And, after that, in your profession and mine as physio background and myself in podiatry, we see this high burnout rate. And, like clockwork, around that 2-3 year mark, we're starting to feel those feelings of just flatness sometimes. And it was a very good opportunity. I met a few good friends at that time and came in contact with some good people that got my head in the right space. And I sort of came into this learning environment of learning a fair bit of self-development and reading books a lot more. And it really inspired me to take a bit more control of my diary. I think, I'm not sure what the numbers are, but as you probably know, Jack, a big part of our day is done subconsciously, and we're just going through the motions, doing the same things. So I learned a really good strategy, which I've started implementing. Well, there's two really good ones, but I'll introduce the first one. One from who's a world leader coach, Brendan Burchard, in one of his books, High Performance Habits. Definitely give that a plug. It's a very tactical book with some great gems to build in some better habits. But the first one was having these mental triggers to pre-frame our brain to think positively and to really think about, bring a bit of consciousness to the world and the lens and how I want to see the world. So the phrase in which he used, and I just adopted it straight away, he asked himself a question of a morning, and he anchored it to something that he already does first thing of a morning. So for him, it was the morning shower. For me, my alarm clock is that reminder. So I straight away, as soon as the alarm clock goes off, I lay there for 2 seconds and I think the words live, love, matter. So he asked those one-word questions of himself, and I'll break that down. So the first part being live. So how will I live my best life today? How will I be an example of living today? And that can be interpreted in many different ways. But for me, that's something exciting, something new, something different, perhaps saying yes to something. Yeah. The next one is love. And, as humans, we're very connected people. And how will I show love in some way? So show compassion or empathy. So, and the third one, matter. So Jack, and as a part of Clinic Mastery, we have all these goals, and they're very personal goals. Sometimes they're big, hairy, audacious goals. So am I moving the needle towards that? Am I doing something that matters, something that I think is matters? And so asking those 3 simple questions, first thing is just priming my brain to see that throughout the day. It's like that I was saying, yellow Volkswagen or yellow car. You see, as soon as you say that, you'll start seeing the word yellow.
Sure. So tell me, how long does it take?
Mate, I've done it in a couple of different ways. So literally, I like to think 1 minute when I first get up, live, love, matter. And then of an evening, reflectively, live, love, matter. And I'll do that in the shower. So shower is a good cue for me to go, great, I've anchored it to something I already do. So I'm not trying to create a new habit, which is half the battle.
Sure.
And I'm just asking, great, what's an example of me that I lived today? What was one little thing? How did I do something that was good or positive for someone else? But the more important thing, Jack, and what I'll find is throughout the day, once you start to build the habit, you'll start to see it and you'll go, great, this is the opportunity of the thing that I'm doing that matters, so you'll just see it. It's at the forefront of your mind. You bring it to your consciousness. So that's one of my favorite habits. It's just brought a bit of joy, mate, and excitement to very simple things that, that can make a difference.
I love it, mate. And I think, one of the things that I love about you is that you bridge that divide between being real, like feet planted firmly on the ground, but yet you lean into being that learning leader and self-development and self-awareness, mindset, philosophy, which I think is a really tough divide to straddle. Yeah, some people get lost in the woo-woo and head so far in the clouds that their feet aren't planted firmly on the ground, or more than likely in Aussie culture, we think we're so down to earth that we don't pay any attention to our mindset and our higher self, so to speak. So I think that's fascinating. What's been the benefit? What's been the outcome for you?
Mate, good question. So as far as day-to-day, just having something curious and fun to think about towards the end of the day, I really enjoy the shower time and just thinking about that. Plus also, that filters into greater, usually on a Sunday, I'll look throughout my day diary that I've done throughout the week, and I will sort of pick apart what are the things that live, loved, and matters. So you're creating your own highlight reel for those simple things. But really, for me, like, I love changing things up and progression and improving. And it's just the day-to-day little check-ins that I make sure I'm on top of that and being more proactive rather than reactive.
Do you journal, Justin?
I do, in a way. I dabble around with it, Jack, and I know it's something that I have at times picked it up and done different pieces. What I do is just a small dot point. So I have a My Goals day, just a paper diary that I have, and I sit it on the desk every day and I write 3 interesting things throughout the day. So I usually listen to a podcast of something on the way to work, and I'll make sure I jot down 1 or 2 simple things with that. So I do a form of it, and that'll be the thing that I reflect on the Sunday. So it's not as formal narrative journaling. Do yourself?
Sure. Yeah, it's a good question. I personally do journal a little bit, but it's more around what I'm reading at the time. So whether there's a reflection piece or a passage or something like that I'm reading, I'll write some notes about that. I've used the 5-minute journal at one stage, which is a very similar expression of the live, love, matters. The 5-minute journal, I think, was made famous. I think it was Michael Hyatt But at the start of the day, what are 5 things you're grateful for? What are 5 things you're hoping for? And then similar towards the end, what are 5 things you're grateful for? And that was a really key piece for me. Really simple app on your phone. You can set some alerts and reminders. But I think the piece is reflecting, whether it's in written form, audio form, internally, spending some time thinking about thinking. I think they call it metacognition at uni, if I recall correctly. How you think about how you think is super powerful. I love it. And as a clinician, what does it mean for you dealing with, if we loop back right to the start, dealing with the chaos of the emotional burden of being a clinician? What impact has it made there?
Mate, yeah, good point. It's so I often think about with work and being in the clinic, the second one, how do I love? And I often apply that a fair bit to patients. So how will I show this really, really one step above? We're aiming to do that every time, but sure. I'm going, this is my, extra 1% that I'm giving to this. And it could be in the form of, no, I'll look up this certain thing for you, or I'll make this other different recommendation, or I'll just go really above and beyond. I'm like, I'm really showing extra love to this person. So that's been a good one for me for sure. But the second point, which I found recently, I've stolen this from my housemate who's a legend and who's right across a few of these different things. But values-based diarying, and he'll look at his blank diary, and I've started doing it, looking at a blank diary for the week and putting in, yes, we've got some of the non-negotiables, and for me that's work. But he'll go, what are the aspects or the arenas of his life that do you value the most? And so physical health, family, personal mission and work and things like that. And he'll put them in order, and actually putting those into blocked times first. So my training actually goes in now before I put any work meetings or anything like that. My phone calls to my family go right in there at the same time. So introducing that values-based calendar has been a very simple, basic shift that has really made sure, because I don't know about you, Jack, but sometimes I get a bit frustrated myself. It's been, a bit longer than I should have without touching base with my uncle who I should speak to all the time, or this or that. I love it. Mick Risk from Clinic Mastery and iMove would just talk about time blocking, and we prioritise what matters. You put the big rocks in, you make room for them, and everything else falls in around it. I love it. Mate, thank you so much. I'm sure listeners would be really interested in the story, but also some really practical, tangible things, reflecting on live, love, matter at the start and the end of the day with a trigger of something that you already do to help deal with those the challenges and the mental health issues of what we do. I love it. Mate, if people want to find out more, we know about your Instagram. Make sure you share those links with us so we can pop them in the show notes. Listeners, you will find those links over at clinicmastery.com/podcast, clinicmastery.com/podcast. Thank you for sharing your ears with us. Justin, mate, we really appreciate you joining us on the podcast today. Any final parting words of wisdom, mate? Funny stories? What do you got for us? Yeah. Mate, I think I did think of a paraphrased quote, but thinking about it stuck with me a while ago, but the world is a beautiful or chaotic place, whichever way we choose to look at it, which is, ties in nicely to framing that positivity and, making those the highlight things and choosing to see it as the altruistic, nice world in which it is. So, I guess that's my little paraphrased quote for you.
Love it. Well, on that rather poetic note, we'll wind up the episode there. Thanks for joining us, mate. Listeners, thank you for your earbuds. Check out the show notes at clinicmastery.com/podcast, and we'll bring you another episode again really soon.
This is the Grow My Clinic podcast by Clinic Mastery, where we help you deliver amazing client experiences to grow your clinic.